West here, reporting from Houston, Texas for Climate Desk. Now, one of the biggest uncertainties in climate science right now is the role of clouds. What better way to work that part out than flying right through them? That's what NASA scientists aboard this airplane think. Welcome to NASA's biggest airborne laboratory. You're coming with us today on an 8-hour NASA flight mission.
When you read these big IPCC climate assessments, what's the biggest uncertainty? There's two, right? The role of aerosols and clouds. Clouds is probably bigger than aerosols.
That is a piece of a puzzle that right now we are missing.
You can't get the models right if you don't understand the chemistry and the process.
Now we're being told we've got to get on. The doors are about to shut, so let's go aboard. Every time you turn on the weather, every time you hear a climate change prediction, that information has to come from somewhere. And it starts by getting sucked out of the air from planes like this.
So this mission is to particularly try to understand the emissions from the surface, so mostly biogenic emissions, so from trees and other plants.
Right now we're flying to our very first part of this experiment on the DC-8. Over Arkansas, there's a particularly pungent bouquet of emissions that scientists are interested in measuring.
Well, these emissions lead to both aerosols and to molecules that both destroy and create ozone. So these are very important things to understand for climate studies.
How it will manifest itself, it will be in more accurate and more reliable predictions.
So what we're doing is taking a series of flyovers, each at a different level of the atmosphere, scooping up those emissions, testing them, and hopefully scientists are going to see exactly what's in this column of air all the way up.
The data that we collect in one flight can keep busy 60 scientists and students for 3 years, 4 years. We are still studying data from data collected 20 years ago.
In fact, this particular mission today is its most heavily equipped in its nearly 30 years of service. Each one of these consoles here is a specially equipped scientific instrument designed to collect all sorts of different data in real time.
And this instrument here tracks the sun.
We're looking at mist chambers. They're used to strip soluble gases.
This black line is the CO2. It's about 390 ppm right now.
We're putting these filters in the bags that we've got the aerosols that we trapped out of a certain amount of air. And so we're sampling up here about 150 liters a minute.
That ultimately flows back into the operational models. It flows back into what goes on TV every day.
Anyway, I got to get this sample going.
You do it. It's a busy man at work. We can't let him rest. Well, get this. We've just spent 2 hours crisscrossing this one cloud formation. In, back out again, back in again.
Then they grow, and we track them as long as we can, and then we let it go.
Even one cloud can hold a host of answers to the mysteries of climate change.
The patterns of, where the clouds are, what type of clouds we see, what kind of weather systems they're associated with it, that'll all be shifting in a shifting climate, in a world with climate change.
Then the big spark is this, is when we actually get the meat on the grill. And then it will be some time to process it.
Hey, good morning, friends and neighbors. Great to see you this morning on a Thursday, July 24. How about it? Welcome to the Bill Press Show this Thursday morning. We are live at our nation's capital, bringing you up to date on the news of the day here in Washington, D.C., around the country and around the globe on Free Speech TV and on our worldwide video stream, TawkrTV, TawkrTV, and you get there by going to youtube.com/TawkrTV. Well, what do you know? After doing nothing for a couple of weeks about the border crisis, Republicans have finally come up with their solution, their answer to how to deal with all these unaccompanied children crossing the border. They say they want to send in the National Guard. Yes, up to 10,000 National Guard troops, they say, are needed at the border. I mean, this is crazy. We don't need the National Guard at the border. We need people who can take care of children. What are we going to have the National Guard do? Change diapers? I mean, we don't need the National Guard. We need chefs. We need counselors. We need teachers. We need nannies. We need people whose specialty is caring for children. And we need more judges at the border to hold some hearings and decide whether these kids have a legitimate case to make for stay in the United States or else should be sent back home. Meanwhile, in the Middle East, the FAA has lifted its ban on international flights into Tel Aviv, and Secretary of State John Kerry says he sees some glimmer of hope for a ceasefire, but the fighting continues and the death toll continues to rise. And in Arizona, another botched execution took over almost 2 hours last night using a new lethal cocktail for this prisoner on death row to die, reminding us of that gruesome scene in Oklahoma a couple of months ago. Boy, lately, these guys are starting to make the electric chair look like the humane way to go. All of that and more coming up. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS, and it's good to have you with us this morning.
This is the Bill Press Show.
I have run these canyons for 6 million years. I have traveled from the Rocky Mountains to the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold, from the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
Lend my hand to 7 states, 2 countries, 9 national parks,
and 36 million people across an arid West.
I am not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
My playfulness.
My beauty.
My power.
My life. But I don't think I can offer any more.
I am tired.
I am tired.
Tapped.
And tied. Of the hundreds of major rivers in the world, I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea.
Battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. Use me wisely, and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name is Red. The Grand River Red. The American Nile.
The Canyon Maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
Republicans finally come up with their answer to our humanitarian crisis at the border. Send in the National Guard. More National Guard. Yeah, that's exactly what we need. Good morning, everybody. What do you say? Thursday, July 24. Here we go. It is the Bill Press Show on a Thursday morning. Hello. Great to see you. Here we are on your local progressive talk radio station. You bet. Here we are on the TuneIn app. You bet. It's free. Download it. Tune in. You can find us on the Progressive Voices channel. Here we are with you on Free Speech TV. How about it? Aren't you glad you got that satellite dish? DirecTV. There we go. And here we are worldwide with you on our video stream, TawkrTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV. Man, every time we turn around, we get some new country tuning in. Not a new country, but for the first time, people from
nation building.
From another. But we did have a lot of people in yesterday from the Netherlands.
Shout out to the Netherlands.
Shout out to the Netherlands, and our hearts go out to the people of the Netherlands who are really suffering and mourning with all of those bodies coming home. And it was 194 people on that Malaysian Airlines flight from the Netherlands. They're hit harder than anybody else, and of course the flight originated from there. Good to be with you this Thursday morning. We've got a lot to talk about. We'll bring you up to date on all the news of the day. That's our job, which we try to do for 3 hours every morning, and give you a chance to join the conversation at any time and tell us what you think about what's going on, what you think about our guests, our point of view, our opinion, news of the day. You know how to get in at 866-55-PRESS. That's our toll-free number. Or you can just send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show or on Facebook at facebook.com/BillPressShow. 4 days in a row, team all in place. It's good to have everybody back. Peter Ogburn and Elisa Murphy.
Yes, sir.
Good morning.
Yeah, a little rainy this morning. A
little bit.
Misty, a little rainy here in our nation's
Hopefully it'll
capital.
cool off a bit.
I hope so, too, after yesterday. It's
a scorcher, man.
Yesterday was one of those days that makes you realize why, before air conditioning, everybody would just abandon Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
Unlivable.
Yeah.
You know?
And it reminds you how nasty it could get here during the summer. We had a pretty mild summer.
We've had it so far, but
yesterday was a
any
slap in the
indication.
face.
Alicia Cruz is with us to take your calls at 866-55-PRESS, and Cyprian Bolding, our videographer, got us up and running. Whoa, on Free Speech TV. Sorry, it's hard getting.
Now, come on now.
It's hard getting started this morning. I haven't had my first gulp of iced tea yet this morning. I'm waiting.
We haven't heard any shaking quite yet.
I caught a little heat for a yawn the other day.
I know. Well, I had a late night last night too.
Oh, did you?
And I haven't had my iced tea this morning. So we were saying Cyprian's got us looking good on Free Speech TV and on the video stream. Yeah, and President Obama is still on the West Coast. He started out in Seattle yesterday, and then headed down to, day before yesterday, headed down to San Francisco. Couple of events in San Francisco yesterday, and then headed down to Los Angeles. A fundraiser in Los Angeles yesterday, and then I haven't seen what happened yet, but he had the night off last night. They finished the fundraiser he got back to the hotel about 7:30. Haven't heard anything since then, but I wish I'd been out there. I could have shown him some real hot night spots in Los Angeles.
I'm sure.
I don't know what he ended up doing. I hope.
I'm sure we'll find out.
I hope we'll find out. Yeah, indeed.
Maybe he's still going.
I'll tell you one thing though, and I've traveled with the president, not this president, but President Clinton in Los Angeles. And when they shut down the freeway, not everybody is happy, as Conan O'Brien pointed out last night.
President Obama is in Los Angeles today for a fundraising tour. Did you know that? Yeah. Well, people are mad. Yeah. People are mad. He's in town and they're mad. Folks, I don't want to say traffic is bad, but right now I'm actually stuck on the freeway Skyping this show from my car.
Yeah. No way around it, man, when they shut that down. But hope the president had a good time there. He's got a speech this morning in Los Angeles, and then he'll be heading back to Washington, D.C. So coming up, big day today. Congressman Chris Van Hollen from Maryland will be joining us. Congressman John Tierney from Massachusetts will be in as well. And a little bit later in this hour, we'll be talking to a reporter from the National Journal about that horrific botched execution last night in Arizona. Just the latest outrage in the execution jet with the use of these new cocktails are all the states are experimenting with. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. The Iron Curtain, the once ominous line dividing Cold War era rivals. So now what do you do with that now that the Cold War is over? Well, the European Union has an idea. They're turning the Iron Curtain into a 4,225-mile cycling trail for tourists.
Whoa.
They're converting it. They're paving some of the areas to take you past some of the relics of the Cold War era.
That's a good idea.
Like the Berlin Wall, like with what's left of the Berlin Wall.
Yeah.
You get to see that. You bike past it and all kinds of things like that. The European Union said it only cost about $2.4 million to connect the whole Iron Curtain into a bike trail, so why the hell not? They're going for it.
Mm-hmm. I like that. Turn swords into plowshares.
There you go. There you go. LeBron James is making nice with his neighbors after the media frenzy of where he's going to go. Earlier this week, he called up a bakery in Fairlawn, Ohio, just outside Cleveland. He put in an order for 70 dozen cupcakes, 65 to be delivered to his neighbors, and 5 to be delivered to the police department.
No.
That's been helping direct traffic and keep people away. He put a card in there that says, "Dear."
He's got a house there, right?
He has a house there.
Yeah.
He has a house there, and he's moving there to play for the Cavaliers.
But I think he kept his house even while he was in Miami.
He did, but now that he's moving back, it's been sort of a parade of people around his house. He put in a card, said, "Dear friend, we know that things have been hectic in the neighborhood these past few weeks, and we're sorry for the chaos. We are so thankful to live in this wonderful community, and we are so blessed to have understanding neighbors like you."
That's great.
Right?
Good
yeah, that's
gesture.
really nice.
Yep. Yeah, isn't that cool? Oh, I love that. And congratulations to Weird Al Yankovic, a blast from the past.
Boy, I'll say.
He has the #1 album in the country. It's the first #1 album for Weird Al Yankovic he's been doing this for 3 decades now. This new album is called Mandatory Fun. What he's done is he's been releasing new videos every day that have star-studded, all kinds of celebrity cameos. So that's driven people to go buy the album. So he's been around for a long time. He's never had a #1 album until now.
Wow. Yeah, I thought he was dead.
He's still alive, still making music.
Yeah, good for him.
And he's embraced the whole new media thing, you know? I mean, these videos are new and cutting edge and pretty funny.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out. Thank you. Thank you,
Thanks,
Peter. Yes, indeed. Well, big news today on the immigration front. The big crisis at the border, for the Republicans have been complaining about it, talking about it, attacking Obama for it, blaming Obama for it. Remember, Rick Perry even said he thought that this was part of a conspiracy. President Obama was bringing these kids here, so they could be future Democrats. And they're like 3 years old now, but someday they'll be able to register to vote. It's a whole thing, crazy kind of stuff. But doing absolutely nothing about it. Well, the big news today is the Republicans had a big meeting yesterday. Now, they still haven't done anything, but they came up with a plan. They now have a plan on how to solve this problem of 52,000 children, at least, crossing the border in the last few months, unaccompanied minors, who, under the law signed by President Bush in 2008, have a right to stay here in some kind of detention center or with their family until they can have their own deportation hearing, and they or somebody for them can make the case of why they deserve to be allowed to stay here in the United States as refugees. At any rate, here is the plan. The plan for the Republicans on how to deal with this humanitarian crisis with all these children is send in the National Guard. Yep, that's what they are recommending, coming up with, talking about sending an additional 10,000 National Guard troops to the border. That's going to solve the problem. This is absolutely idiotic. I mean, it is crazy. By the way, now, that doesn't mean anything's going to happen. They only have 5 more working days, I think, before they end. Talked to a member of Congress last night. They leave next Thursday, and they don't come back until after Labor Day. And they're here for like maybe a week or 2, 5 or 10 days. They don't work a 5-day week,
right.
so
Come on.
3 or 4 days. And then they're gone for the rest of the year until after the election. So, I mean, it's so, and many members of the House Republican caucus are saying we shouldn't do anything at all. But those who want to do something, that's the plan that came out yesterday again, is to send in the National Guard. Again, which is crazy. Now, Rick Perry, of course, wanting to run for president, has already done this. He has mobilized the Texas National Guard and is sending 1,000 Texas National Guard troops to the border. Here's Rick Perry, just so proud of himself to make this announcement by executive order.
Today I am using my executive authority as governor of Texas and activating the National Guard.
Yes, indeed. And Rick Perry says, I'm going to act even if nobody else will, damn it.
I will not stand idly by while our citizens are under assault and little children from Central America are detained in squalor.
No. These little children coming across the border, I'm going to not stand by. I'm going to put the guard at the border to stop them. Damn it.
What assault?
Assault.
Assault.
Yeah. The Texas citizens are under assault. It makes it sound like this is Gaza.
Right.
Yeah. No, there are no rockets firing. These are children crossing the border. By the way, I think the best take on Rick Perry was in the New Yorker magazine on their website yesterday. Andy Borowitz wrote a little post, a little spoof, saying that, yes, indeed, one of Governor Perry's aides pointed out that by sending the National Guard to the border, he proved that he has what it takes to be president, right? Sending troops someplace. Oh, they're my computers.
Oh, no.
Here, I'm reading it.
You got a copy of it.
I got a copy of it.
I think,
yeah, I bet I do. All right, we'll still do it for the computer. Sending troops someplace with no clear idea of why they are going or what they are supposed to be doing once they get there is a key part of the presidential skill set. Rick Perry has just shown that he's got that nailed down. Yeah, he's ready to be president, right? He'll send troops out for no reason whatsoever or no mission whatsoever. So it's not only Rick Perry now. Congress is saying that they want to do this as well. You know, I'd love to know what you think about this. Here's a basic question, right? Is the answer to the problems at the border sending in the National Guard? I think it's crazy for a couple of reasons. First of all, isn't this what Republicans always want to do, send in the military? It's their answer to everything. Civil war in Syria, send them arms and send them as much military equipment as we can. We got problems with Iran. John McCain says, bomb them, right? We got a little unrest in the Ukraine. Send in the military. That's what the Republicans in the Senate want to do. So you got children crossing the border. Send in the National Guard. It's always their solution. The other thing is, I don't know whether anybody ever thought about this in the among Republicans in the House, but they don't have the authority to nationalize the National Guard. Only the President of the United States can do that, like Dwight D. Eisenhower did in Arkansas, Little Rock. Congress does not have that authority. National Guards report to the governor. Now, they could ask the governors of the states to do it, but so far Rick Perry's the only one to do it. So Congress is talking about doing something they don't even have the authority to do. But the biggest problem is, again, this is not a case where we need more guards. There are more border guards at the border now than we have ever had before. These children are not escaping detention. They're not escaping arrest. They want to be detained. They want to be arrested. They're walking up to the guards with smiles on their faces and saying, basically, here we are. We made it. Take us in now. I mean, they know what's going on. And so the idea that, what we really need are not more guys with guns, not more people in uniform. And God bless the National Guard. They do a good job. This is just not their place. What we need are child counselors. What we need are teachers. What we need are cooks. What we need are like nannies, maybe, right? These are children to be taken care of. And then what we need, as the president has said, if you really want to speed up the process, are more judges who can get down there and hold deportation hearings and move this process along a lot faster. The answer is not the National Guard. And I think the Republican Party still, again, just looks silly that this is the best that they could come up with. I mean, come on. This is a humanitarian crisis. What I love the fact that so many, just the last couple of days, so many priests, nuns, bishops of the Catholic Church, so many Protestant ministers and rabbis across the board, religious leaders are stepping up and saying, please, for the love of God, do something to help these children. And sending in the National Guard is not the answer. 866-55-PRESS. Here we are on a Thursday morning, July 24. Let's talk about it. 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Grunt work. Love it, hate it, useful, not useful.
Necessary.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
I will say that I think is a challenge for anyone, especially the new workforce as they come in, is the ability to accept grunt work with grace.
The most boring, awful details are the most important elements of doing this work. From the way you save names in your Rolodex to the way you bank and you deposit checks. The truth is, this work isn't glamorous, it's rewarding. You don't go into this for the glamour, you go into it for the impact. And so it takes that determination to do the scut work to actually get anywhere.
It can be really challenging in a first job for someone who's coming out of finishing school to have the enthusiasm that they do to make the type of social impact that they've dreamed of. And now they're here in this first job and all of a sudden they're shouldered with all this grunt work. And they don't understand and they don't get it and they're resentful.
Talk more about the power of answering phones.
Sure, I did that myself, took out the trash, cleaned offices when I had to, and it's all good. There's power in being a good team player and in being somebody who sometimes has to support other people's leadership before you get to have your own moment in the sun.
Is it hard to wait?
It is absolutely hard to wait, especially if you're an alpha female like I am.
I think grunt work can help a new employee build trust internally and teach them the nuances of how an organization is run so that they can have a real good sense of what HR is doing, what finance is doing, what all of the other departments are, and that actually makes them a better employee in the long run.
So in my role on a daily basis, I literally can be looking at a new venture in software. We could be looking at a microfinance deal. I could be making coffee, taking out the trash, and riding a tractor on any given day.
Have you found people who thought it was demeaning that they were given this job, work in the front office and make the coffee when they graduated with all A's from this great university? And,
yeah, people like that just don't last very long in our world. If your approach to life is that, you're so smart and you're such a fabulous entrepreneur that you can't understand why people aren't giving you opportunities, it's really hard to advance.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
Show. All right, 26 minutes after the hour. Here we go. Republicans coming up once again. Their answer to everything: send in the Marines. In this case, send in the National Guard. Have you ever seen the problem we're talking about at the border? 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds who want help and are looking for help. National Guard is not the answer here, folks, but that's the best the Republicans can come up with, and they may not even do this, and it looks like they're going to break without sending one dime, without spending one dime, without authorizing one dime in response to the president's request for emergency funds. Tim is up in Bristol, Vermont. Hello, Tim. Good morning.
Good morning. Reopen a couple of military bases. They're designed to handle a lot of people. They got chow halls, sleeping in living quarters, clinics, lots of space for kids to run. Perfect. It gives them a central location to find family and friends. And
yeah, no, I think that's a good idea in terms of as a temporary detention center. I hate that phrase, detention center. It sounds like a prison. But, Tim, I like that idea. Also, I saw this morning several bishops, including the Cardinal and leaders of the Catholic Church, including the Cardinal of Chicago, have opened up some parish halls and said, unlike some of those people down in Southern California and Texas who said, get these kids out of it, we don't want them in our community. Priests and bishops in several communities have stood up and said, we welcome you here. Bring us. You're tired. You're poor. You're wretched. You're hungry. Yearning to be free, and have opened up some Catholic facilities to give them temporary shelter again while they're waiting for a deportation hearing. I see more calls. We'll get back to your calls on the National Guard coming up. 866-55
is the Bill Press Show.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing down, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
All right, here we go. 34 minutes after the hour. Republicans' answer to everything is to send in the military. It's certainly not what we need, in my humble opinion, at the border today. They want to send it up to 10,000 National Guard troops as if they had the authority to do so and as if that's what we needed. Joey, out in Chicago. Hey, Joey, good morning, my friend. What's up?
Hey now, guys. Hey now. I love that. These guys are crazy. The National Guard, they're not trained for this. They're not policemen. And the GOP is going to turn on the National Guard as soon as a few of these guys pick up some children and start bouncing them on their knee and starting to care for these children. The GOP will turn on the military just like they turn on everyone else. And then, by the way, I heard they're sending the National Guard to New York Harbor to knock down that Statue of Liberty after they leave the Texas border. So, New Yorkers, watch out. They're coming to take that down, buddy.
Yeah, it sends the wrong message, I'm afraid, Joey. Yeah, that boy, we can't have that. Can't have that Statue of Liberty. Good point, Joey. Good to hear from you. Let's go out to Scottsdale, Arizona, another border state. It's Mike. Hello, Mike. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, what's up?
We've displaced a lot of people in all the wars that we've started. Other countries we should take recognition of that. This is not a immigration problem. It's a refugee problem.
Absolutely, you know, and I mean, people don't understand that these. And now, officially, maybe they're not refugees until they have a deportation hearing, but they have all the as far as I'm concerned, that they fit the definition, right? They are fleeing persecution and horrific conditions in their own native land, and probably would face certain death if they were sent back, a lot of them. Yeah. So, Mike, excellent point. It is indeed, and I hope people see it that way. Bob, before we get to Bob here in Addison, Illinois, just the other thing is that as the Hill points out this morning, even sending the National Guard is not something that is as bad an idea as it is not something all Republicans in the House agree on. And those who disagree with sending the National Guard, they think we should do nothing at all, right? So it's like the choice is between two horrific choices, faced with a very serious and very real humanitarian crisis. Again, faced with children coming across the border. I'd say half the Republican caucus in the House want to do absolutely nothing about it. They just want to get out of Dodge. And the other half say, well, here's our answer. We'll send in the National Guard, as if that's what we need. Bob, now from Addison, Illinois. Hello, Bob.
Good morning.
Yeah.
Well, I was looking back, and I think the last time I recall we used the military to solve a situation that comes to my mind is we prosecuted Lieutenant Kelly for murder.
Well, I think the last time I remember using the National Guard was Katrina, where, they did a good job. They patrolled there. They were rescuing people. They were saving people. And that's the kind of thing you use the National Guard for.
And that also shows the silliness of this border issue when you compare what's going on there to Katrina, right? Like, we needed the National Guard at Katrina, quite clearly.
Yeah.
Compared to this?
I mean, there was basically anarchy.
Yeah.
In New Orleans. Because,
total disorder.
Yeah, total disorder. Certainly the city broke down. The state broke down. FEMA was not there.
Yeah.
And so the National Guard was mobilized, and thank God they were.
Yeah.
They did a great job. Again, talking about some of the religious leaders who have stepped up to embrace this cause of children streaming across the border. The Archbishop of New York, Cardinal Timothy Dolan, a man that I have, and he's head of the Catholic bishops here in this country, or has been, a man that I have often disagreed with because of his position on many other issues. On this issue, when he saw citizens out in Murrieta, California, this was all over the news, who were turning away buses of immigrant children who were being sent to a detention center in Murrieta, California. The bishop sat down and drafted out a blog post saying, this is un-American, unbiblical, and inhumane. In Iowa, the governor of Iowa said he didn't want the migrants in his state. He said, quote, this is Terry Branstad, we can't accept every child in the world who has problems. Right. The clergy in Des Moines, across the board, Catholic, Protestant, Jewish, evangelicals, Baptists, got together and held a vigil saying, bring the children here and we'll take care of them. It's going on all around the country. We're talking, here's a rabbi from Dallas quoted as saying, we're talking about whether we're going to stand at the border and tell children who are fleeing a burning building to go back inside the burning building. Excellent stuff. So the religious community, the faith community, has really stepped up on this issue. It's too bad some of the politicians are just, particularly Republicans in the House. And even in the Senate, you don't see any leadership in the Senate. They haven't done anything, passed anything in the Senate either.
But it also shows how effective of a job they've done of painting these people from Central America as the enemy, as the villain, right? Because when you really look at this on paper, and you look at who's coming across and what they're leaving, it's a no-brainer. It really is a no-brainer. But because of the years of painting them as villains, and they're here to take our jobs, and they're mooching off of this great American society, that's not the case here.
Well, and the Republicans have even painted them as members of gangs.
Right.
Like Rick Perry says, we're under assault. And then there was the one member of Congress, I forget, it was probably that crazy guy from Texas. There's so many of them. Who said they're bringing all kinds of diseases, bubonic plague and everything could be coming in with these guys. And the Hill also reports this morning that Ted Cruz has warned. Here he is again. Ted Cruz, who said, told House Republicans, you have to shut down the government. Now, Ted Cruz yesterday warned House Republicans, don't do anything about the crisis at the border. Do not do anything, he says, because if you do, this is Ted Cruz, it'll only help the Democrats. And so he's saying the answer for the Republicans is to do absolutely nothing. Remember, we called it the autopsy report.
That's right.
When the Republican National Committee, they commissioned a study right after after they got walloped in November 2012. Remember last year, it came out like in early spring of 2013. And their autopsy report about what went wrong and what they had to do to make sure the Republican Party didn't lose so badly again. One of their recommendations was, we have to take the lead on comprehensive immigration reform. The report says, I'm paraphrasing here, something like, if we start out by saying, you don't belong here, you have to go back south of the border where you came from. If that's our first sentence, nobody's going to listen to the second sentence. And so that report recommended the Republican Party had to change on the immigration issue and take the lead on pushing comprehensive immigration reform. That was a recommendation that came out of the Republican National Committee. And here you have a bona fide crisis. And the Republicans in this Congress are unwilling to do anything except maybe send in the National Guard. And John Boehner won't even call a vote on a bipartisan bill that passed the Senate with 14 Republicans voting for it. I'm telling you, this is going to come back and bite them in the ass.
Just a really, really quick comment, because we're on Twitter, @BP Show, where you could comment on the show at any time on any topic. Paul Massalotti says, just very simply, where are the every life is precious people now? The Republicans who claim that every life is precious.
Not if they have a brown skin.
It seems that way.
No. No. All right, take a quick break here. When we come back, a horrific situation down in Arizona, headline in the New York Times. Arizona takes nearly 2 hours last night to execute an inmate, Dustin Volz, from the National Journal. Will tell us all about it.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I'm the retired bishop with the Episcopal Church as the bishop for all chaplains in federal service. I read that there was a group of people that represented a sense of injustice that I had. We'd lost Zuccotti. I mean, there was a kind of a hope that maybe Trinity Church would be gracious and give refuge. We picked this day where we would gather and demonstrate that Trinity was closing its ears to what was happening. We marched around the block, and I realized that, my goodness, they're carrying a ladder. And I thought, well, this is the moment. You could feel a spiritual presence. You could feel a certain something. And then the cops came in. It got brutal.
I'm with you right here. Robin, I'm here.
The church needed, in this moment in history, to stand alongside of these protesters. Truth of Christ is found in the pews, is found in the institutional church, but it is also found in the streets. It's found in the honesty and the integrity, the insistence of people that you find in Occupy Wall Street.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
13 minutes before the top of the hour, Thursday morning, July 24. Congressman Chris Van Hollen from Maryland joins us in the next hour of the Bill Press Show. Moving on right now to another big story this morning, another botched execution using this combination of maybe previously untested lethal cocktails. This one in Arizona. Dustin Volz is a tech correspondent with the National Journal and joins us on our newsline this morning. Hey, Dustin, good morning. Good to have you with us.
Good morning, Bill. Good to be here.
So tell us the grim details of what happened last night in Arizona. It took almost 2 hours to execute this inmate?
Yeah, the official count by observers is 1 hour and 57 minutes. From time of injection of the lethal drugs into his veins, into Joseph Wood's veins, until he was finally pronounced dead.
How long does it usually take, or supposed to take?
Most executions of this variety with lethal injection take anywhere between 10 to 12, maybe 15 minutes. Certainly, 2 hours is far longer than the states would have expected, or anyone else.
And he was alive during that entire time, right?
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't pronounced dead until nearly 2 hours later. And what's interesting now is you're seeing sort of dueling narratives emerge. Shortly after the execution was finished, a number of journalists, including veteran journalists at the Arizona Republic, said, Joseph Wood gasped hundreds of times. By one count, it was 660 gasps during the execution. So that it looked like he had been kind of writhing on the gurney in anguish, and then the states, including Governor Jan Brewer, came out and said he did not suffer. This looks like it was a fine execution, essentially. One spokeswoman I spoke with last night, she even described it as a peaceful procedure. So this seems to be what we're going to see next is kind of a lot of fighting between the defense attorneys, the journalists, and the state as to exactly how much pain this man endured last night.
Well, we also see a lot of fighting among the courts on this case. I mean, the last I had heard about it until I saw the news this morning was that the Ninth Circuit in San Francisco had said that this execution should be delayed until they could tell them exactly what cocktails they were using, right? And then what happened after that?
Right. So there was a flurry of litigation going on here, which has become normal for capital punishment cases. But after the Ninth Circuit said, he needs this inmate has a right to know where his drugs are coming from, the Supreme Court stepped in and said, no, this can go forward.
The Supreme Court of the United States, correct?
Yes. This went all the way to the Supreme Court of the United States, and they determined that they overruled the Ninth Circuit and said that his execution could go forward. And so in a matter of a few days, Joseph Wood probably at least a half dozen times had his execution scheduled for Wednesday, taken off the books, and then put back on. And this is again becoming very normal. And you mentioned that this is another botched execution. We saw this happen in Oklahoma,
right?
But we also saw this happen in January in Ohio with the exact same drugs used last night in Arizona's execution. This was just the second time this two-drug combination has been used, and the first time was in Ohio, where Dennis McGuire, his execution took 25 minutes, and according to witnesses, also seemed to endure a great level of pain. So this is the third time I'd say this year that there's been a controversial execution.
And while what I read is while Joseph Wood last night in Arizona was on the gurney while he's writhing in pain and all of this and gasping, his attorneys are actually still appealing the case, correct?
Right. So about an hour into his execution, when it was clear that he was still alive and gasping and snorting, they filed an emergency stay with the Arizona Supreme Court and said, he's still alive, and something's gone horribly wrong. We need to stop this, and we need to do everything we can to keep him alive. And the court, by the time they were able to respond, 40 minutes later or 50 minutes later, Joseph Wood had died, and so it was a moot point at that moment. But certainly there was a great deal of alarm in the witness chamber.
Well, when do you get to the point of recognizing that this is not an execution any longer? It's cruel and unusual punishment.
Right. I think that's really the question here, and I think everyone has a different answer. Certainly the families of the two victims that this inmate killed back in 1989, they had no problem with the way he died. They said last night during a press conference that they're totally fine with him, and even if he did endure a level of pain. The cruel and unusual question, what is clear is that states, Arizona, Ohio, Oklahoma, among them, are scrambling to procure the drugs they need to carry out their executions, because European manufacturers of drugs have basically boycotts, sending them over to the states for executions, and it's just becoming increasingly difficult to get the necessary drugs. Physicians don't want to cooperate with the states because they don't want to be tied to this practice. And so you see these states doing everything they can to carry an execution, and it doesn't seem as though they're guided by a concern for cruel and unusual, but guided by a concern for how can we get this done.
Oh, yeah. So we'll leave it in the hands of experts like Jan Brewer. All right. Hey, Dustin, thanks so much for your time this morning. It's a grim story, but you laid it all out for us, and appreciate that. From the National Journal, Dustin Volz, nationaljournal.com.
Yeah, at this point, why not use a guillotine, or why not... obviously we're against capital punishment, but...
I'm against capital punishment, but it would be more humane to use a guillotine.
Right.
Yeah. More humane to shoot him.
Yeah.
Jesus. We'll be right.
This is the Bill Press Show.
So this is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing down, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan. Thank you. And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Big threat to Social Security. We'll tell you all about it at the top of the next hour.
Here we go again, Bill. An Air Algerie flight from Burkina Faso to Algiers disappeared from the radar earlier today. The plane fell off the radar about 50 minutes after takeoff. It's carrying 110 passengers, 6 crew members. No word on what happened to the plane. It just is gone.
Ooh. Boy, too much of that kind of news lately.
Yeah, really.
It just got that word. It just came over the wires. We will keep our eyes on that and bring you any more updates as we get them during the program. Congressman Chris Van Hollen joining us also in the next hour.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, good morning, friends and neighbors. Great to see you this morning on a Thursday, July 24. How about it? Welcome to the Bill Press Show. This Thursday morning, we are live in our nation's capital, bringing you up to date on the news of the day here in Washington, D.C., around the country and around the globe on Free Speech TV and on our worldwide video stream, TawkrTV, TawkrTV, and you get there by going to youtube.com/TawkrTV. Well, what do you know? After doing nothing for a couple of weeks about the border crisis, Republicans have finally come up with their solution, their answer to how to deal with all these unaccompanied children crossing the border. They say they want to send in the National Guard. Yes, up to 10,000 National Guard troops, they say, are needed at the border. I mean, this is crazy. We don't need the National Guard at the border. We need people who can take care of children. What are we going to have the National Guard do? Change diapers? I mean, we don't need the National Guard. We need chefs. We need counselors. We need teachers. We need nannies. We need people whose specialty is caring for children. And we need more judges at the border to hold some hearings and decide whether these kids have a legitimate case to make for staying in the United States or else should be sent back home. Meanwhile, in the Middle East, the FAA has lifted its ban on international flights into Tel Aviv, and Secretary of State John Kerry says he sees some glimmer of hope for a ceasefire, but the fighting continues and the death toll continues to rise. And in Arizona, another botched execution took over almost 2 hours last night using a new lethal cocktail for this prisoner on death row to die, reminding us of that gruesome scene in Oklahoma a couple of months ago. Boy, lately, these guys are starting to make the electric chair look like the humane way to go. All of that and more coming up. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS, and it's good to have you with us this morning.
This is the Bill Press Show.
I have run these canyons for 6 million years. I have traveled from the Rocky Mountains to the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold, from the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
I lend my hand to 7 states, 2 countries, 9 national parks,
and 36 million people across an arid West.
I am not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
My playfulness,
My beauty.
my power.
My life. But I don't think I can offer any more.
I am tired.
I am tired,
tapped,
and tied. Of the hundreds of major rivers in the world, I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea.
Battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. Use me wisely, and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name
is
Red. The Grand River Red. The American Nile.
The Canyon Maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
Republicans say they know how to deal with all these children crossing the border. Send in the National Guard, 10,000 of them. That's what they came up with yesterday. God, is Rick Perry in charge? Good morning, everybody. Thursday, July 24. How about it? Good to see you today. Thank you for joining us. We are your morning show on your local progressive talk radio station. I'm proud to be there with you every day, and good to have you with us. You can also find us on Free Speech TV, of course, worldwide on our video stream, youtube.com/TawkrTV, TAWKRTV. And if you not lucky enough to have a progressive radio station where you live, check out the TuneIn app. Download it. It's free. Tune in, and then you can pick us up anywhere on the Progressive Voices channel. So much to talk about this morning. We got a lot coming up. 2 more hours to go here with our team, Peter Ogburn and Elisa Murphy. Hello.
Hey, good morning.
In addition, Alicia Cruz, of course, part of the team. She is ready to take your calls at 866-55-PRESS. And Cyprian Bolding with the lights on, the cameras on, keeping us looking good as possible, given what he's got to work with on Free Speech TV and on our video stream at TawkrTV. Yes, indeed. Did you see that little story yesterday? They did a little study on the Affordable Care Act, and not surprisingly, some people have cheated on the Affordable Care Act. They were able to get coverage using some fake ID.
Okay.
You know, I mean, that's not a program this big. There bound to be some little problems like that. And by the way, they wouldn't be using fake ID to get Obamacare if they didn't feel it was a good program and they needed health care for them and themselves and their families. But Conan O'Brien pointed out last night, it does say something about this day and age.
A new investigation, other news, a new investigation found that people are using fake IDs to sign up for Obamacare.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm sorry, but today's teenagers do not know how to party. That is not...
Yeah. We used to get fake IDs and use them for a little more exciting purposes, right?
Yeah. Right. Seriously, man.
Yeah. Not to get health care, but to do things that were not good for your health.
Really bad for your health, usually. Yeah.
Indeed. Hey, great lineup coming up here. Congressman Chris Van Hollen from the state of Maryland will be here in studio with us this hour. And next hour, Congressman John Tierney from Massachusetts also in studio. And John Stanton will be here as a friend of Bill. John Stanton, Washington Bureau Chief for Buzzfeed, will kick off this hour with some pretty scary stuff that we might expect from the Social Security Administration. Check in with our good friends at the American Federation of Government Employees and find out what's going on so we know maybe how to stop it. But first...
This is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. If you smelled something funny in Washington yesterday, it's because Donald Trump was in town.
Oh, yeah, I saw.
He was here not too far from here. He was breaking ground on the new structure. He is taking over the old post office building about 4 blocks away from the White House.
Yep.
It is the 3rd tallest structure in Washington, D.C., and he is turning it...
It's a beautiful old building. It
sure.
Really is.
Yeah. Well, he's turning it into a hotel.
I know. I hate to see it become the new Trump Tower.
He's turning it into a hotel.
Terrible.
He said that it will have the Trump name on it.
Of course.
And
how big will it be?
You're going to see, Trump name somewhere. He said it's going to be discreet. The Trump name on the thing.
Like he's so discreet.
Yeah. That's really his mode there. The hotel will reportedly cost about $700 per night. They're really turning it into a luxury hotel.
And Trump said yesterday it's going to be one of the great hotels of the world.
That's what he says.
Yeah.
That's what he says. It's official.
I want to say right now, I will never step foot in the Trump hotel.
Okay.
Never.
You're on record. We've got you on record.
Sleaze bag.
It's underway, Bill, in San Diego Comic-Con, the biggest comic book and sci-fi and overall nerd out festival in the country. It's happening now. A lot of things that you can expect to see. Marvel has several big movies coming out. The Avengers coming out. The Guardians of the Galaxy coming out in just a couple weeks. They also have Doctor Strange, a new Captain America movie coming out. The Hobbit is also coming out later this year. Game of Thrones expected to be there. And DC Comics will be there talking about their Batman, Superman
This is always a huge event.
Gigantic.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'd love to go out for it sometime.
Yeah. And poor Justin Otero, he is 4 years old. His mother took him into a donut shop in Connecticut where he asked a woman in front of him if she had a baby in her belly. The woman did not have a baby in her belly. She was not pregnant. The mother was very embarrassed, and so they left.
She had too many donuts in her
She had
belly.
one too many donuts. Well, here's where things get interesting. The next day, they went back to the donut shop, and the donut shop stopped them from coming in. They told this 4-year-old kid,
my goodness.
you're not allowed to come in until you learn some manners.
No way, he's a 4-year-old.
They kicked the 4-year-old out. He's banned from the donut store. Local
so sad.
Local journalists are looking into the story. They've talked to the donut shop. They've given no comment yet, but I can imagine that this will only get bigger. We'll have updates as the story progresses. This is Cyprian and they're laughing.
Well, I mean, so the lady, the fat lady must have complained.
She complained.
Robust.
Right.
Robust.
Robust.
What they should have said is, lady, you can't have any more donuts. They should have kicked her out until you slim down a little bit.
Give him a free donut and say, maybe don't ask. That, by the way, that is the golden rule. Never, ever assume that someone is pregnant until they tell you.
What they need, the answer to that kid is send in the National Guard. That's what the Republican Party would do. Yeah. Oh, man. Yes, indeed. Thank you, Peter.
Yes,
boy, a pretty scary headline saw the other day. The biggest change to Social Security you have never heard about. A piece written in the Huffington Post by our good friend, the president of the American Federation of Government Employees, a proud sponsor of our program, by the way, President J. David Cox. And we wanted to find out more about this and whether or not something we ought to be worried about. From the American Federation of Government Employees, head of their Council of Social Security Administration Field Operations, Mr. Witold Skwierczynski joins us on our news line this morning. Witold, it's good to have you with us. Thanks so much for joining us.
It's good to be here. Good morning.
So we are talking about not threats to Social Security that are coming from conservatives in Congress, but from the Social Security Administration itself, as I understand. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right. They
what are they up to?
Well, they recently it started with sequestration and budget cuts, and actually preceded that. We've had 14 of the last 16 budgets that were submitted by the president for the administrative expenses for Social Security, which would be for the staff that runs the agency, the building, all the infrastructure, have been reduced by Congress. So in response to that, the agency has taken some measures to save money, and unfortunately, the kind of measures they're taking affects customer service. So they've closed about close to 80 offices in the last 3 years.
Whoa, already?
Jeez.
Yes. And they've also reduced our office hours about 28% right now. Offices are only open nationally from 9 to 3, and on Wednesdays only from 9 to noon, so there's less of an opportunity for people to access the agency. Just 2 years ago, the offices were open from 9 to 4:30. And they've taken or planning to take actions to cut services. One service that they're cutting as of August 1st is Social Security number verifications. Oftentimes when people file for a job, let's say the employer wants proof of their Social Security number. If they lost or misplaced their card, they can come into an office today, and we'll verify the number, give them a piece of paper with the verification.
Mm-hmm.
They take it to their employer, and their employer's satisfied, and they can be hired. But the agency's planning on cutting that service and requiring people instead to file for a new Social Security number, which takes 7 to 10 days.
and would mean the job probably be gone that they're filing for as they're waiting for the verification. And also the agency was planning on eliminating benefit verifications. So if you file for a loan or a mortgage or on a car, or if you're filing for benefit from another state or local government agency, these folks oftentimes want to have an income verification requirement. So if you're getting Social Security benefits, you can come into an office and we'll give you the benefit verification. The agency wants to start doing that through the Internet, and clients that we service oftentimes don't have access to the Internet, haven't used the Internet, we service mainly disabled people and retired people who are probably the least able populations to use the Internet. So that would disenfranchise a bunch of people from that service, and probably lead to, if they were seeking a loan of some sort or another benefit, would result in them not being able to do that. So these kinds of service cuts and office closings are affecting the ability of the American public to get services from Social Security.
Sure, and affecting the ability of the Social Security Administration to do its job, right, to service the public. But I must say, until I saw President Cox's article about this, an op-ed, I hadn't heard about it anywhere else. I mean, is Congress, can the Social Security Administrator do this by executive order or unilaterally? Does
Well,
Congress
they can close
get involved?
offices. They've closed, like I said, close to 80 offices, and they've done this without any laws being passed, without any requirement for them to have public hearings. So, for instance, if a post office closes, the law requires a public hearing so that the public can have input into the process. There's no such statute for Social Security offices. Congressman Higgins from upstate New York has introduced such a bill, H.R. 3997, which would put a moratorium on office closings and in Social Security office closings, and would also require that the agency study the impact that such an office closing would have on the community, on the employees, and on the agency, and would require public hearings before they could close an office. So the union, AFGE, is endorsing that bill. Also, Congressman Braley from Iowa has introduced a bill which would continue the services I just mentioned, the Social Security number verification and benefit verification, for at least a year, and that would be H.R. 4964. So we're trying to get some support for legislative efforts to try to change this move by Social Security to close offices and reduce services.
Well, I'm sure in many communities there's only one Social Security office. I mean, if those offices are closed, then people are going to have to travel great distances to get the kind of help that they need. Is this information up on your website about, and what is this whole? Yeah,
you can go up to AFGEC220.org and get information about this. Or also
AFGE, give me that again. Slow down.
AFGEC220.
C220. 220. What is C220?
Council 220. Within AFGE, our council is given a number.
Got it.
Or just AFGE. They have similar information on their front page of their website. Just look for the word Social Security. Click on there, and you'll get information.
And we'll put up a put up a link to that too. And this is all contained in a Social Security plan called, I read in President Cox's article, a Vision 2025. So they hope to have this whole thing streamlined by 2025.
What I just described is already done.
Yeah.
So what's in Vision 2025? Congress in the fiscal year 2012 appropriations, they put in money there to do a study about the future of Social Security. So that's what Vision 2025 is about. And they hired the National Academy of Public Administrators to do that. I think they paid them about $450,000 to do that. And they have just released a report yesterday. They had a draft they released in March, And the draft was pretty explicit in the fact that what they were recommending that the agency do was shift its service to primarily online services, so that if you wanted to file a claim for retirement benefits or disability benefits or supplemental security income benefits, you wouldn't be going to a Social Security office. You'd be going to a computer and filing online. And it also indicated that the agency could have substantial budgetary savings by closing Social Security offices. So they would have, in fact, the draft report stated that it would be a rare case for a member of the public to be able to have a face-to-face
meeting with
communication with a Social Security employee.
Yeah, let me just jump in here.
And that any employees that were left, that they would certainly reduce the workforce substantially by closing all these offices and not having in community Social Security workers. You would have some workers left who'd be working at home.
Vito, I got to interrupt you just in a sense of time. I mean, this is really scary stuff, and what's particularly, I think, outrageous about it is that Social Security is such a great program, and it works. It's the old thing, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. They ought to leave the damn thing alone. I'm glad you're raising awareness of this through AFGE. We will have a link up on our website and hopefully help you make people aware of it, and maybe we can head it off at the pass. Witold Skwierczynski is with the Council of Social Security Administration. Don't forget, the link on that website is afgec220.org.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Grunt work. Love it, hate it, useful, not useful.
Necessary.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
I will say that I think is a challenge for anyone, especially the new workforce as they come in, is the ability to accept grunt work with grace.
The most boring, awful details are the most important elements of doing this work. From the way you save names in your Rolodex to the way you bank and you deposit checks. The truth is, this work isn't glamorous, it's rewarding. You don't go into this for the glamour, you go into it for the impact. And so it takes that determination to do the scut work to actually get anywhere.
It can be really challenging in a first job for someone who's coming out of finishing school to have the enthusiasm that they do to make the type of social impact that they've dreamed of. And now they're here in this first job and all of a sudden they're shouldered with all this grunt work. And they don't understand and they don't get it and they're resentful.
Talk more about the power of answering phones.
Sure, I did that myself, took out the trash, cleaned offices when I had to, and it's all good. There's power in being a good team player and in being somebody who sometimes has to support other people's leadership before you get to have your own moment in the sun.
Is it hard to wait?
It is absolutely hard to wait, especially if you're an alpha female like I am.
I think grunt work can help a new employee build trust internally and teach them the nuances of how an organization is run so that they can have a real good sense of what HR is doing, what finance is doing, what all the other departments are, and that actually makes them a better employee in the long run.
So in my role on a daily basis, I literally can be looking at a new venture in software. We could be looking at a microfinance deal. I could be making coffee, taking out the trash, and riding a tractor on any given day.
Have you found people who thought it was demeaning that they were given this job, work in the front office and make the coffee when they graduated with all A's from this great university? And,
yeah, people like that just don't last very long in our world. If your approach to life is that, you're so smart and you're such a fabulous entrepreneur that you can't understand why people aren't giving you opportunities, it's really hard to advance.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
This is the Bill Press Show.
In the next half hour, Congressman Chris Van Hollen, ranking Democrat on the House Budget Committee, a good friend of the program from the state of Maryland, will be here in studio with us. And you have heard me rant and rant and rant on and on about drones and how I don't like them and think that we have to have some controls on the use of drones.
Mhm.
But I do have to say drones now are being used not just to kill people or to kill Americans overseas, but they're for some good missions. There's an article in the New York Times I saw yesterday morning that they're being now used in Belize to protect their coral reefs by having drones overhead so they can get any fishermen who are in areas where they shouldn't be, for example, protect their water population there. They're also being, listen to this, drones are being used now to monitor seabird populations off Australia, to monitor rainforest in Indonesia, to study caribou and their effects on vegetation in Greenland, to combat poaching in Nepal, and to conduct other conservation work in Madagascar, Gabon, and other countries, in addition now to Belize.
Wow.
So I guess we have to say there are good drones and bad drones.
I think that's a good way to put it.
Yes, all right. And I am for good drones.
This is the Bill Press Show.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing down, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
33 minutes after the hour now, Thursday morning, July 24. Coming to you live from Washington, D.C., The Bill Press Show. Our studio on Capitol Hill, just down the street from the United States Capitol building, where we are brought to you today by the Laborers International Union of North America. Good men and women of the Laborers Union under President Terry O'Sullivan, building a better America. That's their website, too. Check out their good work at Liuna Builds America, Liuna, liunabuildsamerica.org. Well, time is running out for the Congress before they take their long August through Labor Day break. Time to get anything done on important issues like immigration, for example. Can we expect any action at all? Joining us in studio again this morning on his way to work. I think the GPS system, Congressman, in your car, you push a button for the Capitol and it just automatically stops at our building.
It's programmed in there now, right? Exactly.
It's got to be.
It's good to be here again.
Congressman Chris Van Hollen, Ranking Democrat on House Budget Committee from our neighboring state of Maryland. Let's start on immigration if we can, because a headline in the Hill this morning is the House GOP is split over the border crisis. What to do about it? Half of them say don't do anything, and the other half say send in 10,000 National Guard.
Well, that's right. Look, you opened up here with the real scandal, which is that Congress has so many important issues on its plate. And yet it's talking about taking off for 6 weeks. And then the speaker's got us coming back just for a few weeks after that, prior to the election. And in addition to immigration reform, we have things like the minimum wage we would like to vote on, extension of helping folks who are unemployed through no fault of their own, whole slew of issues, including immigration reform, right? And there's comprehensive immigration reform, which we could get done today like that. If the speaker would allow a vote, the president could sign it by this evening. We have enough votes. He just refuses to allow a vote. And then, of course, we've got the emergency situation at the border. And Republicans are looking at these knee-jerk non-solutions, like sending down the National Guard. The issue is, in this particular instance, is not border security. The comprehensive immigration bill deals with more long-term comprehensive border security. But these kids are not trying to run around border patrols. They're running into the arms of border patrols.
Yeah, right.
So that is not the issue. And as you say, the Republicans right now are split. What we really need to do is adopt the president's budget plan. He's asked for emergency funding which would actually accomplish what Republicans say they want to, but in a way that's fair and allows for the rule of law, which is to expedite the review of the cases for asylum that many of these kids have coming across the border and make individual determinations about who's eligible for asylum and who's not.
So the children coming across, and it's important to remember, children we're dealing with here, right?
Yes.
I think a lot of people tend to forget that. But the reason that they have the opportunity to have a hearing here is because of this legislation, the Wilberforce hearing, which was signed by President Bush in 2008. Now, some Republicans are saying, well, we're not going to give the president a dime unless we change that law. But I mean, there was a purpose behind that law, which was to protect children from being particularly sex trafficking.
Yes.
Right? So what do they want to do? Just go back to the way things were before then?
Well, so they're obviously divided on this issue. As you indicated, in 2008, Congress, on a bipartisan basis, passed that law signed by President Bush. The intention was to make sure that kids who were fleeing terrible situations, especially sex trafficking, but other kinds of violence, would have an opportunity to have some safety and asylum in the United States. And Republicans now apparently want to dramatically amend that law. Some would like just to throw it out altogether, I think. But they haven't gotten their act together. They're divided. Meanwhile, the president continues to ask for some resources to deal with this issue. And Republicans are saying, well, we're only going to give you the resources if you dramatically change the 2008 law. But as you indicated, they haven't even figured out what they want in terms of those changes.
Right. So, Congressman,
and I should say, Bill, the other thing is a good part of the reason we're here. I mean, there are lots of pieces to this. But if we had passed comprehensive immigration reform, there would be a much more orderly process for people, at least who have family members here, to petition to come and join their families. And so the failure to pass comprehensive immigration reform is part of the reason. It's not the whole story, but it's part of the story.
Yeah, it really comes back to that because everything that the Republicans say they want is really contained in that comprehensive immigration reform. There's a better process for dealing with people who come here across. There's more security at the border. There's the path to citizenship, on and on and on. And as you said earlier, it's easily achievable. 14 votes in the Senate. The bill's been in the House for a year. It would pass today if John Boehner would allow a vote.
That's it.
With Republican votes.
Yeah. Look, let democracy work its will. That's all we're asking here.
It just seems to be asking for
too much these days. Yeah. Well, as we know, democracy's been suspended in the House of Representatives.
But you've been here with us, Congressman. We have talked about certainly Congress is not going to take a break, whatever the break is, without raising the minimum wage. No, they wouldn't do that. They did. Congress would never take a break without without extending unemployment insurance for the long-term unemployed. And guess what? They did. Now people say, no, there's no way Congress is going to leave town without doing something about immigration reform. That could happen again.
Pretty sad state of affairs. And again...
But it could happen, right?
Well, yes, it could. And I just want to point out with respect to both the minimum wage and extension of emergency unemployment compensation. In the House, once again, what we've asked for is a vote. If Speaker Boehner wants to vote no, fine. Yeah. If Republicans want to vote no, fine. But we believe, and we know when it comes to immigration reform, and we believe when it comes to these other bills, if they actually had a vote in the light of day, we would have passed them. And so it's just, it's a real blot on the democratic process that we've not been allowed to vote on these vital issues.
Congressman Chris Van Hollen with us here in studio, ranking Democrat on the House Budget Committee. So I want to ask you about your chairman, Paul Ryan, today. A lot of excitement because he's going to come out with his report. He's been having all these meetings, visiting some poverty centers around the country, talking to people about poverty. He's going to come out with his recommendations for how to deal with poverty in this country. Haven't we already seen were his recommendations for dealing with poverty, Congressman?
Well, that's right. Look, we've had 5 hearings in the Budget Committee over the last several months on the poverty issue. This year was the 50th anniversary of the war on poverty.
Which he claims has been a failure.
Well, that's right, and that claim is disconnected from reality. Let me emphasize this, which is that earlier this year, the Council of Economic Advisors came out with a report indicating that 40 million more Americans would be in poverty today if we had not enacted some of the great initiatives and measures in the war on poverty. Food and nutrition programs, of course, Medicaid was part of that. Now, that's not to say we don't have a long way to go. We all know that we have an inexcusable number of Americans still in poverty. So we made it clear that we, the Democrats on the Budget Committee and in the Congress, welcome any constructive ideas on how we can do better in the fight on poverty. Maybe we can coordinate our efforts better. We've got some ideas as well. But what we see here is a total disconnect between rhetoric about what Republicans and, in this case, the chairman want to do on the poverty fighting front, and the budget that was authored by Chairman Ryan and passed the House of Representatives, which would have devastating consequences for lower income Americans and middle income Americans. And let me just give you this statistic. Of the $5 trillion in cuts in that proposal, 2/3 of the cuts are to programs that help lower and middle income Americans. This is in a budget that cuts the top tax rate for millionaires by 1/3. So it's a budget that cuts the top rate for a millionaire by 1/3 from 5% down to around 25%, and cuts all these investments that help more middle income and lower income people who are trying to move into the middle class. That's the reality of the budget.
That's stunning. He should not be allowed to talk about the poor.
So he wants to wall off this conversation. He wants to say, look, I've got these ideas on how we can reform some of the anti-poverty programs. The problem with that, and if you have a good reform idea, fine, but the reality is those are the very programs that he is absolutely whacking through his budget. So he says, don't look at that. Don't pay attention to that part of my program. Of course, that's the one thing they've actually passed in the House, which is why I want to emphasize, watch what they do, not what they say, because tomorrow in the House of Representatives, Republicans are bringing to the floor of the House a bill that would reduce the future child tax credit for lower income individuals, cut the child tax credit for folks who earn between $10,000 and $20,000. These are people in and around the poverty
They're the people we really have to crack down on, right? Not the millionaires, not the billionaires are getting all the tax breaks.
That's right. And included in that group are 400,000 veterans or families who are currently part of our armed services who are struggling to get by. And they would be cutting the child tax credit for that group of people. At the same time, they're giving speeches about how we're going to, fight poverty and help struggling families.
The hypocrisy is
so. That's what we just want people to focus on, that disconnect between what people are doing and what they're saying.
Watch what they do, not what they say. Congressman Chris Van Hollen will be right back. You want to weigh in here? You know how to do it at 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I'm the retired bishop with the Episcopal Church as the bishop for all chaplains in federal service. I read that there was a group of people that represented a sense of injustice that I had. We'd lost Zuccotti. I mean, there was a kind of a hope that maybe Trinity Church would be gracious and give refuge. We picked this day where we would gather and demonstrate that Trinity was closing its ears to what was happening. We marched around the block, and I realized that, my goodness, they're carrying a ladder. And I thought, well, this is the moment. You could feel a spiritual presence. You could feel a certain something. And then the cops came in. It got brutal.
I'm with you right here. Robin, I'm here.
The church needed, in this moment in history, to stand alongside of these protesters. The truth of Christ is found in the pews, is found in the institutional church, but it is also found in the streets. It's found in the honesty and the integrity, the insistence of people that you find in Occupy Wall Street.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
It's 12 minutes now before the top of the hour with our in-studio guest, Congressman Chris Van Hollen from the state of Maryland, a ranking Democrat on the House Budget Committee. Your colleague, Congressman John Tierney from Massachusetts, joins us in the next hour, and John Stanton, who's the Washington bureau chief for Buzzfeed, will be along as well in the next hour as a friend of Bill. I noticed also on the front page of the Hill this morning, Congressman, that Senator Ted Cruz is urging House Republicans not to do anything at all about immigration because it will only help the Democrats if they do.
Right. So this is the same Senator Cruz that less than a year ago advised House Republicans to shut down the federal government to try to overturn the Affordable Care Act. We see how well that worked for House Republicans and the Republican Party and for the country. The country lost $24 billion in economic activity as a result of that. So you would think that House Republicans would learn the lesson that listening to Senator Cruz is not a winning, viable strategy. I think the Speaker knows that it's not a strategy, and yet the Speaker continues to get rolled by the Tea Party faction in the House. That is still where the energy is, and unfortunately, it's bad news for the country. The only way to deal with that, of course, is through the elections and the ballot box, and people do have that opportunity this November, and the Democrats have put forward a strategy to strengthen the middle class and to help people who are aspiring to be in the middle class, and it has very specific elements. It's concrete actions Democrats will take in the first 100 days of the next Congress if given the opportunity to be in the majority. On that issue, Elisa, the bite we had there from the Speaker, the very last one where he said that he thinks that the Congress ought to act. So here's what he said yesterday on this issue, particularly speaking about immigration. Speaker Boehner.
I'd like to act. We've got a humanitarian crisis on the border, and that it has to be dealt with. The president clearly isn't going to deal with it on his own, even though he has the authority to deal with it on his own. But I do believe that the Congress should act, and I'm hopeful that we will.
So the Congress should act. As you said, it's easy answer to how to get some action done here, right?
That's right. Have a vote on all of these issues, and the president does not have the authority to spend money that has not been authorized by the United States Congress. The Speaker says, oh, well, the president can do this on its own. Believe me, if the president started printing money without congressional authorization, you would have Speaker Boehner add another claim to this ridiculous lawsuit that he's talking about filing. You know, the Speaker should read Article 1. Congress does have the power of the purse. The president can't spend that money without Speaker Boehner providing a vote on that request. And that money is to be used to expedite the process.
Which is what they want.
Which is what they say they want. But we're beginning to wonder whether they really, what their real agenda is here.
The last time you were in, we talked about the Highway Trust Fund and your plan for getting the money that we need before the Highway Trust Fund runs out of money. Is that one item where we might see some coming together?
So there are two issues here, Bill, right? So the Congress has now put together a Band-Aid answer to the Transportation Trust Fund. So the good news is it will not run short this August and this summer. The bad news is it's a totally kick the can down the road till next May. The proposal that Sandy Levin and I put forward would have extended the health of the Transportation Trust Fund for a lot longer period and would have accomplished another really important objective. Since I was last here, these what are called inversions, which is just a fancy name for American multinational corporations that are essentially reorganizing in a way that renounces their American corporate citizenship, merges with another smaller foreign company, but takes on the national identity of the smaller company in order to escape paying their U.S. taxes. So they get all the benefits of our infrastructure investments, of our rule of law, of our court systems, and yet they want to say, you know, sorry, United States.
We want a free ride.
We want a totally free ride. We want the taxpayers of the United States to pay for all the benefits that we have, but we don't want to pay a single dime. And so, of course, not only does this allow them to escape their responsibilities on taxation, but it increases the burden on everybody else in America because we still have to support things like our national infrastructure and education system and things that greatly benefit these corporations. This is unpatriotic. We need to put the hammer down right now. Yes, we need to do tax reform, in my view. However, we can't allow we can't allow this to continue while we debate tax reform. We won't have a corporate tax base left by the end of the day. And we need Republicans to act on this. They are looking the other way. We've not gotten a vote on this important proposal. And again, they're just playing footsie with some of these big corporations that want to evade their responsibilities.
Well, Congressman, you got your work cut out for you with not much time to get it done, so we'll let you get back to work. And thank you again for coming in today.
It's good to be here. And thanks for sort of exposing trying to have it both ways by the Republicans on this anti-poverty issue.
The message for Congressman Chris Van Hollen: watch what they do, not what they say. That's the message for today. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Okay, just about reaching the end of hour number 2 here on this Thursday morning. Hour number 3 coming up. Sorry to lose you on Free Speech TV, but you've got an option to stay with the video stream on our worldwide video stream, TawkrTV, TawkrTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV. And in the next hour, one of the most colorful members of the Washington Press Corps, John Stanton from Buzzfeed, will be here for the entire hour as a friend of Bill. And we will be joined by the great liberal from Massachusetts, another great liberal from Massachusetts, Congressman John Tierney in studio. Stay with us for hour number 3, TawkrTV.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I probably would make a time machine. I would make medicine for the sick. I'd probably invent something new.
我会赢到5个总冠军戒指。
If I could have an extra 5 years to live. You said 5, right? 5 years. It's a long time.
I would try to fix everything I did bad.
I would bring my uncle back because I miss him very much. I would get more hamsters. I would probably want to go looking for dark matter. I think I'd go looking for aliens. If I could live an extra 5 years.
I was thinking about making like a helicopter, like a wooden helicopter, but I don't have any wood.
I want to go check out the moon sometime. I'd probably teach my sister not to hate tuna. I would try and invent a machine that lets you run at light speed. If I had 5 more extra years to live, I would be the boss of all the chipmunks. Eu cantaria na frente de 1 milhão de pessoas. I don't really know. I think I'd do anything. Why are you asking me that?
Okay, if it's another day in California, it's another fundraiser for President Obama this morning. Then he will be giving a speech at the Los Angeles Technical College, Trade Technical College this afternoon, and then back to Washington arrives at 11 o'clock at the White House.
This is the Bill Press Show.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
I'm the retired bishop with the Episcopal Church as the bishop for all chaplains in federal service. I read that there was a group of people that represented a sense of injustice that I had. We'd lost Zuccotti. I mean, there was a kind of a hope that maybe Trinity Church would be gracious and give refuge. We picked this day where we would gather and demonstrate that Trinity was closing its ears to what was happening. We marched around the block, and I realized that, my goodness, they're carrying a ladder. And I thought, well, this is the moment. You could feel a spiritual presence. You could feel a certain something. And then the cops came in. It got brutal.
I'm with you right here. Robin, I'm here.
The church needed, in this moment in history, to stand alongside of these protesters. The truth of Christ is found in the pews, is found in the institutional church, but it is also found in the streets. It's found in the honesty and the integrity, the insistence of people that you find in Occupy Wall Street.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
House Republicans say they've got the answer to the border, the humanitarian crisis at the border. Send in the National Guard. Yeah, that looks like that's our answer to everything. Hey, good morning, everybody. What do you say? Thursday, July 24. So good to see you today. We are there with you as your morning radio show on your local progressive talk radio station. Proud to be there with you. You can catch us on the TuneIn app as well on any electronic device, anywhere. It's free. Download it. Tune in. And worldwide, we are there with you on our video stream, youtube.com/TawkrTV, TAWKRTV, on a little misty, rainy Wednesday morning so far here in our nation's capital. We've got the team assembled to bring you the news of the day from here in Washington, around the country, and around the globe. Peter Ogburn and Elisa Murphy.
Hey.
Hey, good morning.
All right. Thanks for coming in again today. You better be here.
I thought about not coming in.
Yeah, I know you.
Just to switch it up.
Alicia Cruz has got the phones covered, ready for your calls at 866-55-PRESS. Cyprian Bolding, our videographer, keeping us looking good on that video stream. And very happy to welcome back to the program a good friend of ours, the Washington Bureau Chief for Buzzfeed, Mr. John Stanton. Hey, John, how are you?
Good. It's good to be here.
You surviving the summer in Washington so far?
Pretty much.
It was brutal yesterday, though.
Yesterday was terrible. It was really humid and hot.
That's
horrible.
the thing. You just walk outside, before you even know it, you're sweating.
Yeah.
Just because of the humidity. I can take the heat. This is the oldest thing in the book. I can take the heat.
Not the humidity, right. I was saying earlier that you can understand why it used to be that in the summer, everybody just fled Washington.
Yeah.
Because you couldn't live here.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think they're all getting ready to, right? They're all leaving next Thursday.
Yeah.
All of Congress, at least. And the president will be off, who knows where the hell he'll be.
Martha's Vineyard.
Martha's Vineyard, right.
Yeah.
Great.
No, Congress is
House
gone.
shopping in California.
I had dinner with a member of Congress last night. So they leave next Thursday. They will not be back until a week after Labor Day.
Right.
Then they're back for maybe 2 weeks, and then they're gone the entire month of October, and they'll be back late in November.
Yeah, they come back sort of.
How can you and I get a job like that?
I know, right? I guess be an idiot and crooked and live someplace that's not Washington, D.C. and get elected Congress. That's how you do it.
There you go.
There it is. That sort of. That kind of sums it up.
Being a resident of the District of Columbia pretty much precludes us from getting that sweet job.
Yeah, I think so indeed. So big day today in San Diego is the opening. Peter, you reported this a little earlier, of the big Comic-Con.
Comic-Con, yeah, man.
Event. Every year it's a big deal. People show up in costume all the time.
Yeah.
And Conan O'Brien last night talked about all the couples that have met at Comic-Con. Imagine.
According to a poll, this is true, about a third of couples who attend Comic-Con met there. Isn't that sweet? They met there, yeah. And the most common pickup line they used was, your parents' basement or mine?
That's a whole subculture. Huh?
Totally. The thing about Comic-Con is I love everything that they love, but I don't think that I look like a total moron about it. They go so extreme with it.
I've seen you in your Wonder Woman costume.
Let me break out my lasso of truth, man. Come at you.
Unmasked.
That's right.
John Stanton here is a friend of Bill for the entire hour. And Congressman John Tierney from Massachusetts will join us at the half. We'll get right into the news. News of the day. But first, Peter.
This is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. Montana Democratic Senator John Walsh is in some hot water after the New York Times uncovered that he plagiarized 2/3 of his master's thesis when he was going to the U.S. Army War College in 2007. Not good. Not good at all. His campaign.
I would emphasize at the U.S. Army War College.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
If you're going to cheat, you would think to cheat on the Army.
The Times reached out to his campaign spokesperson, who wrote back in an email, quote, "This was unintentional and it was a mistake."
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, okay.
Well, I mean, that's at least accurate.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, I'm sure it was a mistake
from someplace else. But
my question is whether he's up for election. He was appointed.
He's
to
appointed.
take Max Baucus's place. So I think he's up for election.
He is up for re-election, and he is trailing his Republican challenger.
But do you think the fact that you plagiarized part of your master's thesis or whatever, that voters would care about that?
Yeah. I think I pretty much. I mean, he didn't have a whole lot of a chance anyway.
Right.
He was not doing that well to begin with, but I think that this sort of just ends in this one. I imagine the DSCC is pretty much writing off Montana at this point and saying, okay, well, now we're on
as you point out, they may already have. I've not heard a lot of talk about Montana in the win column. Right.
He's been having difficult. I mean, he's been doing some okay fundraising on his own, but he's not gotten the kind of support from National Democrats that you would have expected if they thought that they could actually keep that seat. So
yeah. But you know what, also about this, I didn't realize, when I first heard about it, I thought, well, he was a kid, right? No.
Yeah.
This was when he was 46 years old.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is just like 2007 is when it happened.
Right.
Not that long ago, dude.
That's a hard one to write off.
Yeah, exactly. You're not young and stupid
At that time,
point.
you should have known a little better.
You're just stupid. Vindication for Raul Placencia Quintero. He lives in Illinois. He was trying to send an explicit picture of Lil Raul to his wife. Instead, he sent it to another woman.
Oh.
He got the numbers messed up, and he sent it to another woman who sued him for obscenity charges. Yesterday, he was acquitted. They said it was an accident. They showed, he meant to send it to his wife. He was one number off. He sent it to another woman. The woman, Raul, is very happy that he was vindicated of that and says he's going to be a little more careful next time he sends a sext to his wife, but he does not say he's going to stop sexting with his wife.
Another wienerism here, right?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Sort of, okay.
Good for him. He beat it. The charge. The charge. Come on. What's wrong with you people?
On,
Good grief. Here in Washington, D.C., starting today, you can buy one of the weirdest, oddest food combinations. Astro Donuts and Fried Chicken is going to start selling their Old Bay fried chicken sandwich served on a donut. It is a savory donut that has Old Bay seasoning mixed into the batter. Then it's topped with Old Bay, and then inside of it, it has a fried chicken breast with lettuce, tomato, and then you get to pick whether or not you want to put barbecue sauce, ranch, buffalo, honey mustard, or blooch on it. And it's $9 here in Washington, D.C. Old Bay donut fried chicken sandwich.
Sounds amazing.
Yo, I would eat that.
I would eat so
I would
much of that.
absolutely eat that.
I would actually beat you with the stick to get at it before you. No doubt.
Challenge accepted. Challenge accepted.
All right, you guys can go out for that after the show. I'll take my Old Bay with blue crab.
There you go.
Yeah, not with chicken.
I'll go with that too.
All right. 14 minutes after the hour. So, Mr. Stanton, I know you've been writing a lot yourself, and you've been down there and covering things at the border. There's so many aspects of this, but let me just start. Republicans in the House yesterday said, okay, we've got the answer. All right, we're going to send in more National Guard. 10,000 National Guard is what they're sort of recommending, following the lead of Rick Perry.
Right. Well, actually...
Is that the answer, the National Guard?
So... Kind of yes and kind of no, actually. One of the problems that they're having is with the influx of kids, they have hundreds and hundreds of people are required to be working around them as a result of having them, whether they are, keeping an eye on them, whether they're cooking meals for them, doing health screenings, figuring out where to place them, doing interviews, and it does eat up a lot of resources.
Supervising recreation or something. All kinds of things. Imagine. It's like summer camp almost.
It's right, for like tens of thousands of kids.
Yeah.
And so, they do need an influx of personnel. And if they don't bring in the National Guard to do some of that stuff, then what the administration wants to do and has been doing is pulling ICE agents from the interior and bringing them down to the border to do some of these sort of more mundane jobs. And that then therefore means there's less enforcement of immigration laws on in the interior, where there is a pretty significant problem. They're not looking at employers, for instance, or other things like that. So, bringing them down does do a little bit of good. obviously that's not why they're bringing them down. They're bringing them down to make it look like they're, strengthening the border because they have Republicans have convinced themselves to a certain degree, and certainly conservatives are convinced of this, that these children coming in and these numbers we're seeing are a demonstration that the border is not secure. I mean,
so we need more guns, more guys with guns at the border, they say. Yeah.
Right, which is, sort of, it doesn't really make sense when you think about it, because the kids, what they're doing is they're turning themselves in. I mean, they're groups of kids that are coming to the border and like waiting around for a Border Patrol agent to come and pick them up. They're not trying to get past anybody.
Yeah.
That's really
insane.
Yeah, and throwing more and more people at the border, the diminishing returns, you've already started to see it before this happened. There's only so much of the border that we can realistically secure. There are parts that are just impossible to secure because they're too mountainous, because they're too far out in the desert. There are going to be gaps in the border. There are on tribal lands where we can't go. I think at some point, the actual securing of the borders becomes sort of a useless talking point, but that's where they're at right now.
Now, tomorrow, the president comes back from California tonight. Tomorrow, he has invited, and they're coming, the president of El Salvador, the president of Honduras, and the president of Guatemala are going to be at the White House. This sort of ups the ante a little bit, I guess, right? I mean, can anything come out of a meeting? Or what can they do? Could they stop the flow from their countries?
No, they can't stop the flow, but they can. There certainly is stuff that they could do to slow it down. They are starting to run a lot of PSAs. The Department of Homeland Security actually had this song. It's called The Beast, and it was written about riding the train and how you can die if you ride the train through Mexico. And it has become the #1 song in El Salvador right now.
Cow.
Yeah, and so they're playing it a lot. They have these commercials that they're playing on television there. And, the ironic thing is that this is not the first time that these leaders have had meetings, or their wives met with the First Lady a few years ago and basically told her then, look, there's a problem. We've got this crazy violence. We've got people that are leaving our countries and coming to your country. There's a lot of kids. So, these things I think are good for raising awareness in the home countries. Obviously, these guys are going to ask for more money that I don't think they're going to see anytime soon in terms of aid to try to address the violence. And I mean, that's really the core of it, is trying to stem the violence there, which is going to require us to spend a lot of money and resources in Central America, which has never been a priority for this administration.
Well, the question I've had, one of many questions throughout all of this is, Josh Earnest has told us at the briefings, we want to speed up the process so that under the law, following the law, they all get a hearing. But we're convinced that the vast majority of these kids will be sent back. If the conditions are so bad in their home countries, what happens when they go back?
They die. But that's
all right.
That's Jesus. But that's the thing is,
that's the reality.
Our asylum laws do not cover crappy lives, though, and that's the reality. Is that they are specifically written so that you have to show that you are part of a persecuted group, essentially, and that your government is either actively participating in the persecution of you because you are a covered minority group or political organization, or is unwilling to protect you. That is they're trying to use that language as there's all this violence and our government can't protect us from the violence. But asylum courts have consistently found that that's not really a legitimate reason, that gang violence in your neighborhood or your city is not good enough reason to get asylum. With the kids, they, I think, show a little bit more latitude because, they're minors, but this administration wants them gone, desperately wants them gone. Celia Munoz has made it very clear to everybody that she's talked to, she's from the White House, that they don't want them around. The message that he has been delivering to his Democratic colleagues is, if you want me to do anything with executive actions in terms of not deporting people that are already here, then you have to be prepared to sacrifice these children. And that's the political calculus that they're playing with right now.
Whoa, stakes are really high on this, and far from resolution. John Stanton covering this issue, as well as the rest of what's going on here in our nation's capital for Buzzfeed, Washington Bureau Chief. You want to weigh in? We invite your questions, your comments at 866-55-PRESS. Quick break, then we'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Oh, you're such a dork, loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look! Your crush is looking at you. Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach
likes
your
you.
kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Here at the GED Pep Talk Center, we have pep talkers standing by to get you motivated for your GED diploma. Text the name Terry to 69222 for a sympathetic pep talk.
You show people what you really are.
Or for a gentle pep talk, text the name Deborah.
You know you're going to make people very proud of you.
And if that's not enough, text the name Danny for an extreme pep talk.
Prove everyone wrong. Show them you're the boss.
Get your GED pep talk and find free GED classes. Text the name of the person you want a pep talk from to 69222.
Did you see the world differently? Did you celebrate the victory?
So today, I state clearly and with conviction America's commitment to seek the peace and security of a world without nuclear weapons.
Did you stand up against our greatest threat? Change the world.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
25 minutes after the hour now, here is Congressman John Tierney from Massachusetts joining us in the next half hour. Me and John Stanton, Washington Bureau Chief for Buzzfeed at buzzfeed.com. Everything from the news from the White House, the news from the Hill, and kitty cat videos. It's all there on BuzzFeed. They cover the ballpark. John, the president requested $3.7 billion to deal with this crisis we've been talking about at the border. Is he going to get anything at all or anything close to it?
Certainly not before September, I don't think, no. Nobody anticipates giving him that much money, and not even the Senate Democrats don't think they want to give him that. I think the interesting fight...
You say September. I mean, how many more kids are going to be here by September?
Well, that's the thing with the request is that the administration's request... Most of that money was actually not going to be spent before the end of August anyway. And they have the biggest problem that they have is that there is a gap of funding that is going to occur early into August at DHS. There's about a $25 million dollar gap that they need to cover. The administration publicly says that they need the money to cover that, but privately they've told people not to worry about it, that they have enough emergency authority to shift money around that they can cover that into September so that they can get sort of an actual deal on a bigger package of money done. I think they asked for a lot more than they probably need, and Senate Democrats and House Democrats even have said that they don't necessarily see the need for that much money.
Right.
So...
The last I saw, the Senate had a bill which was $2.7 billion, so just $1 billion less.
Right.
That was the Senate Democratic plan, I guess. I lost track of it.
No, it came out last night.
Was it voted on?
It's not yet been voted on. I think it'll be voted on later on this week or next week. Yeah, and then the House Republicans have $1.5 billion in their package, so they'll get something probably in the end, but just not what they've asked for.
So the House Republicans have 1.5, and the Hill reports this morning that Ted Cruz has warned House Republicans or advised House Republicans don't do anything at all about immigration. Don't do anything at all because anything you do will only help Democrats. This is, of course, the same Ted Cruz who advised House Republicans to shut down the government.
Well, and he does have sway with them.
He does.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that there's right now this assumption amongst people that Boehner's plan has enough votes to pass. I don't actually believe it does. I think that there are enough Republicans, conservatives that don't want to spend any money unless it's totally paid for. There are some that just don't want to do anything at all on this issue. And I think that those people, combined with the fact that no Democrats are going to vote for what they're doing in the House side, means that they're just not going to get anything done before August. Luckily for Republicans, frankly, though, is that Democrats are fighting amongst themselves. You have the White House that wants to change this asylum law from 2008. They are much closer to Republicans on this issue than the majority of their members who are unwilling to go along.
Yeah, and the end result is nothing happens. Congressman John Tierney coming up next.
This is the Bill Press Show.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Racing dot. I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan, big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
How about it? 33 minutes after the hour. It's Thursday, July 24. Good to have you with us today as we come to you live from our nation's capital and our studio on Capitol Hill here in Washington, D.C. Brought to you today by the good men and women of AFGE. You know them. They're the largest public employee and healthcare workers union in the entire country. Making America happen under President Lee Saunders, just back from a great big convention in Chicago. For more information about all their good work across this country, visit their website at afscme.org, AFSCME.org. We love being right on Capitol Hill because we can snare some members of Congress or Senate or members of the Senate on the way to work in the morning. Congressman Chris Van Hollen Chris Van Hollen joining us a little bit earlier in the show, and pleased to be joined right now by Congressman John Tierney from Massachusetts. Hello, Congressman.
Hello, Bill.
Good to see you.
Happy to be here. Happy to follow Chris Van Hollen. Great member.
Yeah, he is. Ranking Democrat on the House Budget Committee. And
does a good job.
Does great work. Everything all right up in Massachusetts? I mean, for the summer, the Cape is packing the tourist in. And
well, you know, I'm up at Cape Ann, so we compete with Cape Cod. So, you know, we think that our area is every bit as good and less traffic. So, you know, Gloucester and Rockport, Manchester by the Sea, Salem, Beverly, all that's got ocean front, and lots of tourists up there as well.
This is important to know. I didn't know about Cape Ann. Right.
You know, if you go into that direction, you don't want to fight all that traffic down to Cape Cod. Just turn that car north.
What do you think, John?
Nice.
Beautiful beaches.
Nicer, yeah.
It sounds like a field trip, right?
I've been up there before. It's very, very nice.
Very, very nice.
It's very nice.
Get yourself good lobster, some clams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How about your just thinking the guy who fled Massachusetts thinking he could get a better reception in New Hampshire? Is Scott Brown going to pull that off? What do you think?
You know, I don't see how that happens. Jean Shaheen has such a good reputation up there. She did a great job as governor. She's been a good U.S. senator. She knows the people, has known them for a long, long time. I don't know how you jump over the border like that, even if you had a summer home up there and spent a couple of weeks, which I think is what Scott said, right? He moved up because he had a summer home. But, I mean, she's just deeply rooted in there, and I don't think has done anything to make people like her any less. I mean, she's been working hard. I just don't see how it works no matter how much money he spends. But I think the Republicans have a different theory that they can spend a lot of money from other sources and do it. But I think Jean Shaheen's going to be fine.
You know, you and I, we've been up there covering campaigns. And, I mean, if you're in Manchester or forget that other
Concord.
Yeah, I mean that southern part of New Hampshire. Yeah. It is very close to. It's certainly commuter drive distance into Massachusetts. But I always found though the people in New Hampshire, they're New Hampshireites. They're not.
Oh yeah, they're pretty independent.
Yeah, but I mean, I think the Republicans definitely do feel like that they have, a shot at it, or I don't think they would have spent as kind of money backing him, frankly. And the national Republicans are definitely throwing their weight behind it. So, in this kind of a year where I think Democrats are going to have a tough time everywhere, but, I think that they figured they got a shot. So it'll be interesting to watch.
The ones that I find most interesting are the ones in the South, Mississippi and now Georgia.
Yeah, it is interesting. Kentucky, you can't lose that.
And Kentucky.
I mean, I think that Grimes is a good candidate, and she's going to give him conniption fits.
Just the idea that there's any play at all in the South for Democrats. And
well, Elizabeth Warren going down into some of the southern states and getting a great reception.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right. Your senator.
Our senator. She's also doing a great job. I mean, she articulates a really populist message that goes right to the heart and right down to what we talk about. Now, why I think, just a little disagreement with you, I think Democrats are going to do better than people think because they're focusing on the issue in the sense of whose side do you want. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's so clear with people, and when you look at the polling data, if you say Republican, they say big money, corporate, multinational corporations all on one side, and clearly, the Democrats are on the other side. So I think there's enough of that populism resonating out there, even in independents, that they look at it and they say, well, these guys are with the banks on Wall Street, these guys are with corporations that are inverting so they don't have to pay taxes, and then they're, keeping all of the legislation off the floor that would correct any of those issues.
Which was interesting because that was part of the message that David Bratt, however you pronounce it, used against Eric Cantor.
Right.
Eric Cantor was too close to Wall Street, and he used that in the Republican primary part with that and the immigration issue to beat Eric Cantor. But you and Elizabeth Warren, picking up on that, have worked very hard together on the student loan issue we talked about last time you were in. Has that moved along? Where are we?
Well, we're fighting it. Elizabeth and I worked on this before she even got in the Senate. She was always great on this issue, was very helpful in advising. She knows it really well. And now that she's carrying the bill in the Senate, a couple of bills that we have, it's really helpful.
And your bill in the House?
My bill in the House, she filed it in the Senate. And then we actually have a couple of bills going in different angles. One of them is the notion that if you're a student who's graduated or a parent whose student has graduated but you took out loans to help them, on that, an interest rate could be anywhere from 6.5% to 12%. Why shouldn't you be able to write that down to the same rate of 3.8% that current students are having?
Renegotiate.
Basically. Refinance. Just refinance the way you do for a car or for your house even on that. And the answer to the Republicans is that they want to run it like a business and a bank, and once you got somebody hooked in, you can't let them go. And that's just not what we're doing. This public policy is about getting people into school and out of school with a degree or some credentials, and then into life. So we were looking for that break-even point, I should think. Make them pay back the loan, make them pay a factor for the collection cost, and make them pay a small factor for default. But beyond that, why are we driving a profit out of the students to cover the debt that people ran up when they went into Iraq or whatever the notion is, the part of that? So that's the fight we have, and we've been bringing it up. Unfortunately, we're in a position we have to bring it up procedurally because the Republicans just flat out refuse to put it on the floor. But we've been seeking to amend other bills that are related. We're seeking to give them an opportunity to what we call motion to recommit. When a bill's ready to go to the final vote, we can have one motion to recommit it, to fix it by putting in this amendment and bring it back. But they've consistently voted to a person almost, with the exception of a few, against doing that. And we just don't get it. I mean, this is a bill that the nonpartisan sources say would put $22 billion back into taxpayers' pockets over 10 years. The Center for American Progress did a study, and they said it would put $21 billion back into the economy. I mean, these kids, and parents, if they have the money, it's not like they're going to tuck it away with their other millions. They're going to pay a rental bill or go buy a house, buy a car, spend the money because they have to do it just to exist. And one of the reasons that we file it is, I get inundated every day with emails and calls. People stop me on the street about my son or daughter's living at home. They can't get out of the house. They have a job, but they're just struggling to pay the bills that they have. Their college, repayment bills are higher than most of their other bills. Students tell me they feel like they can't get a start on life. They feel like they're just not going to be able to get married. They can't start a family. This is a way to help everybody on that, and it helps the taxpayer to boot in the economy. So it's an argument I think is compelling. People respond well to it. They understand what we're trying to do here, and they understand we're on their side when we do it.
John, it seems like one of those issues that ought to be almost no-brainer. I mean, you talk about let the market work. I mean, the way the market works today, we've refinanced, I don't know whether you have, we've refinanced our house to get a lower interest rate.
Yeah.
So under the market, for banks to be competitive today, they all allow that. Why shouldn't they allow it for student loans?
I do think it's interesting. And I think it's, I mean, politically, this has been a good issue for Democrats, I think, for the last couple of years. It's funny that having it right now in a non-presidential election, this issue coming back up again, it's interesting that Republicans have not taken it more seriously because it does energize some younger voters, and you always see them dip during an off-year election, and keeping them engaged has always been a challenge for both parties. But the Democrats, you've seen it like almost every time. You get them out in the presidential, especially if you get somebody that's like Obama that is very engaging, and they sort of get behind it, and then they disappear. And this is the kind of issue that can keep them long-term engaged. And it's interesting that it is not, something that they're trying to address. I'm always interested in the political debate. There are certain issues where the politically smart thing to do is also the right thing to do. Sometimes they're not always the same, but sometimes they come together. It seems to me this is one where it comes together. That the right thing to do is to help these kids, and the politically smart thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking tens of millions of people involved on this, and I've not come across anybody who has that loan, whether it's a parent or a student, who disagrees with the notion that they want to pay it back. In fact, part of the pressure that's on, and I think sometimes gets belittled by our Republican friends, is people want to do the right thing. They want to pay it back. They know they got a loan. They know it helped them get an education. They want to be people doing the right thing.
They're not trying to be freeloaders.
No, but it's they just wanted to be able to work it into their budget so that they can do it and get on with the rest of their life, like those that came before them did. I mean, when we all went to school, we had an opportunity to, if we had to take a loan or whatever, it was a reasonable rate, and you paid it back. It was just another bill you fit into your budget every week or anything like that. Well, now it's not the case. These things are loading up, and that the interest rates are so high really is just masking the fact that they want to make a profit because they've got to find a way to pay that down. When they the interesting thing is this is not a question if you roll the interest rates, you're taking money out of the Treasury. This is the fact that they've been using this as a cash cow to put money into the Treasury to mask the debt that they ran up. So it's an interesting thing. They'll say, well, if you do this bill, then you've lost money. No, we haven't lost a dime. The fact of the matter is you've lost your cash cow to pay down a debt that you ran up, and you're going to have to find the money somewhere else. Maybe you're going to have to not build the nuclear bomb, defense system that isn't working anyway, and the intercontinental ballistic missile system that tens of billions of dollars a year, and it doesn't even work. So why don't you just go back to the research table and stop deploying it until you get to that point? There's a lot of money. Don't let corporations, the same people that won't give these kids a break, they won't stop corporations from inverting, taking an address overseas so they can avoid all the U.S. taxes. They won't stop corporations from keeping their money overseas, not bringing it home because they don't want to pay taxes. Again, it's whose side are you on? I mean, what are you fighting so hard for them for? People on Wall Street, the other bill that I have is that why can't students actually get the same interest rate that Wall Street banks get when they go to the Fed? So why are you helping banks get a low interest rate of less than 2%, sometimes less than 1%, yet these kids and their parents are getting loans of 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12%? It just doesn't seem fair to people, and I think they're onto something here. It's not fair.
Maybe because the banks have more lobbyists in Washington. I'm not really sure about that. Anyhow, easing the burden on student loans is just one way that Congressman John Tierney working to help jumpstart the middle class. We'll talk about a couple of other ways. Here with John Stanton, who's the Washington bureau chief for Buzzfeed, friend of Bill for the entire hour with Congressman John Tierney from Massachusetts. You want to join us? 866-55-PRESS. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
So this is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Racing done. I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
At 12 minutes before the top of the hour, good Congressman from Massachusetts, John Tierney, in studio with us. John Stanton is here as a friend of Bill this entire hour. John, always good to have you around, from Buzzfeed, buzzfeed.com. Something very, very, very unusual happened, my friends, this week. President Obama actually signed a piece of legislation. I guess it was unusual that he signed a piece of legislation, also unusual that Congress passed a piece of legislation, a bipartisan piece of legislation, the Workforce Innovation and Investment Act. Opportunity Act, sorry. Congressman, you were there with him, and the president noted what a significant event this was. Here's his comment.
I want to thank all the Democrats and Republicans here today for getting this bill done. This is a big piece of work. You can see it's a big bill. But I'm also inviting you back. Let's do this more often. It's so much fun. Let's pass more bills to help create more good jobs, strengthen the middle class.
All right. It's so much fun, Congressman.
Yeah, well, it was. I mean, look.
So how many more of these are we going to be able to see? On what issues?
Yeah, it's a silly season, and that's the problem. We were talking during the break about the aspect that every time it's a serious issue that people are paying attention to, the far right thinks that they can't let it happen, and they do it. It's a little bit like Hamas in Israel, when they were like that. The far right is stopping any deal from being made by people that want to get things done. And this slipped by. I think you're probably right. This was something that all of a sudden we've been working on, and the right had been holding it up, and all of a sudden one day they said, okay, you can have your way and get it done, and we put what essentially was the Senate and the Democrat bill through, our bill in the House that the Senate had worked on with us, and it got done. And I think it's too bad that people weren't paying attention, that people didn't realize it and listen to what the president said, because we could do a highway bill, we could do investments in energy, and we could... there's so much that we could do that would be a win-win for everybody.
Minimum wage, unemployment insurance.
We did a minimum wage between 2007 and 2010 and had a bipartisan vote on it. And it's interesting. I tell people that period, 2007 to 2010, was the most productive Congress since 1965, according to Norm Ornstein from the AEI, right? So a conservative group, but he's a historian. The problem that we have here is Boehner feels constrained by his far right and can't it won't bring things to the floor. If the Democrats were back in charge, they'd bring things to the floor and we'd get bipartisan votes. It's not that every Republican wouldn't vote for it. It's that the ones that want to vote for it aren't allowed to because it never gets to that position. In fact, that's why they don't bring it to the floor. They don't want it to pass a lot of times.
Well, it does seem like I think a lot of Republicans are operating under this assumption that they are there to not, that is actually their job right now, is to not pass things. And so long as that is the predominating view, I mean, I don't think you're going to see anything get done. Some of them are starting to change a little bit. They see that, passing things that result in money going back to their districts is a good thing, and that people don't necessarily dislike that idea that they're going to get jobs and stuff. And so that is starting to filter down into some of them. But I still think that, like, right now, the sort of the no, the people, it's funny, Democrats particularly will call them the party of no as if it's a bad thing. But for a lot of them, that is a good thing. They actually, accept that mantle and say, no, that's why we are here, is to stop things. So.
And it's almost like, I see by anybody's calculation, Congressman, this is already the most do-nothing Congress ever in terms of achievements, right? But a lot of these Republicans in the House feel that that's great.
No, I think John makes a good point, Bill. If you measure it by the number of bills actually signed into law, this is the least productive Congress since who knows when, maybe ever.
But they see that as a win, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's a philosophical difference. This is, in the 90s there were differences between the parties, but they weren't quite as, I think, pronounced as they are now. They really do think that they should be not only stopping things, but they just don't believe that government should be as involved in life as it is already, let alone trying to do more things.
And so the question is, who's going to build your roads? Who's going to fix your bridges? There's rumors in some counties in Texas, they're talking about going back to gravel roads. So give me the insurance for windshields. It's just retro stuff on that. But it used to be, the argument used to be about when, how much, who's going to pay for it. And now you're right. There's a group out here saying no. And when they're saying no to a highway bill, I mean, if anybody's driven on roads at any state in this country, they're in terrible condition. I mean, we are billions and billions of dollars of unmet needs on roads and bridges that it costs every business a ton of money. It costs commuters a lot of time away from their family and irritation as well. Safety is a huge factor on that. And if you just went out and decided to fix those because it's the right thing to do economically and for safety reasons, you'd put hundreds of thousands of people back to work.
Right.
And they don't want to do that. They're talking about a bill now that they want to run over into next year, into May, which is sort of worse of both worlds. It's too small. It doesn't force them to really deal with the big issue of doing a 4 or 5 year bill, and it lets them off the hook, and it leaves cities and towns uncertain as to whether or not they can even start projects.
And that's the best. That's the best they can do. Yeah,
that's all they want to do.
Which always was, as Ray LaHood, Republican, was always fond of saying. That was always a bipartisan thing. Everybody came together on. Hey, Congressman, time is running out, too, and you've got a lot left on your plate, so we'll let you get back to work.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
You got today and then a couple of days next week, and out of here for 6 weeks.
5 weeks or 6 days,
Yeah. Congressman John Tierney, great to see you. Hey, John.
Thank you, John.
Thanks for coming in.
It's good to be here.
All right. I'll come back. We'll wrap things up on this Thursday morning.
This is the Bill Press Show.
It is possible to read the history of this country as one long struggle to extend the liberties established in our Constitution to everyone in America. In other words, who, according to our laws and culture, gets to be considered a person? The law creates legal personhood, and movements create law and change culture. So, how have the courts passed laws to shape our culture? That history goes way back before Citizens United. 1819, Dartmouth College versus Woodward, Supreme Court case, turned a corporate charter from a government-granted charter to a contract. This ruling gave corporations standing within the Constitution. 1886, Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad. Though the court did not rule on corporate personhood, the decision was subsequently cited as a precedent to hold that a private corporation is entitled to the same 14th Amendment rights of due process and equal protection as human beings. This makes it impossible for us to make laws that treat local businesses any differently than giant multinational corporations, even if their business practices are deemed to be harmful to workers, the environment and communities, or if they have a history of violating the law. Hale versus Henkel, 1906. The court granted corporations the Fourth Amendment search and seizure protection. Dodge versus Ford Motor Company, 1919. The Michigan Supreme Court says the business corporation is organized and carried on primarily for the profit of the stockholders. Stockholder primacy is established. The purpose of the corporation, according to the court, is no longer to serve the public good, as it had been. It is now to maximize profit for shareholders above all else. Pennsylvania Coal Company versus Mahon, 1922. Corporations get the Fifth Amendment takings clause, meaning if you pass a regulation that impacts a corporation's ability to make a profit, that is deemed a taking, and they can sue for the right to future profits lost. This creates a chilling effect, and local and state governments become much more hesitant to pass laws in the public interest for fear that corporations can claim loss of potential profits that cities and states will be on the hook to pay. Buckley versus Vallejo, 1976. The Supreme Court rules that spending money to influence elections is protected under the First Amendment, in effect saying that money is speech. Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission, 2010.
Today, the Supreme Court of Chief Justice John Roberts declared that because of the alchemy of its 19th century predecessors in deciding that corporations had all the rights of people, any restrictions on how these corporate beings spend their money on political advertising are unconstitutional.
The court's ruling threatens to undermine the integrity of elected institutions across the nation. It's a rejection of the common sense of the American people.
Okay, we had so much fun there with John Stanton and Congressman John Tierney. Didn't leave any time for a parting shot, but we'll let you go into this Thursday. Hope you have a good one, and good reason for coming back tomorrow morning is Congresswoman Rosa DeLauro will be with us from Connecticut, a real leader in the House on many issues. Looking forward to that. Have a great day. We'll see you back here again tomorrow.
This is the Bill Press Show.